Welcome to Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. If loneliness were an Olympic sport, Eleanor Oliphant would be taking home gold, silver, and bronze, all while insisting she's completely fine. The book opens with Eleanor living a life so predictable that even her toaster probably gets bored. She works in an office where her colleagues don't dislike her per se. They're just trying to figure out whether she's a misunderstood genius or a malfunctioning robot that somehow learned payroll. Her routine is airtight, same food, same clothes, same loneliness, and her beloved weekly bottle of vodka, her emotional support beverage. And of course, we can't forget her weekly phone call with Mummy, who delivers psychological warfare with the elegance of a Bond villain. These conversations are so toxic they could peel paint off walls, but Eleanor treats them like a normal childhood tradition. Red flag? More like an entire red parade. Eleanor views the world through a strictly logical lens. By logical, we mean she narrates life like she's an alien who Googled how to act human once and decided it was optional. Her co-workers keep their distance, and Eleanor interprets that as their social incompetence because obviously she is the only person functioning correctly. But then, plot twist of the century, Eleanor is forced into human interaction when she meets Raymond, the new IT guy. Raymond dresses like every day is laundry day, but he's friendly, patient, and horrifyingly warm. Their worlds collide even further when they witness Sammy, an elderly stranger, collapse in the street. Helping him drags Eleanor, kicking and screaming, into the messy realm of connection. This small act of compassion becomes the first crack in Eleanor's emotional concrete armor. She has no idea, of course. She just assumes this is a one-time inconvenience. But oh no. Humanity has already begun its slow invasion, so, yes, Eleanor's perfectly fine bubble is starting to leak. And trust me, once Raymond enters the chat, things are about to get way less fine. Buckle up! Now that Eleanor's been forced into the sunlight of social existence, her brain decides it's time for something even more shocking: romance. Real romance? Of course not. We're talking about Eleanor. She catches one glimpse of musician Johnny Lomond, a perfectly average local performer, and immediately concludes they are destined to be together. Destiny, soulmates, cosmic alignment, the whole delusional buffet. Johnny does not know she exists, has never spoken to her, has definitely not proposed. But those are minor details Eleanor chooses to ignore. Instead, she launches into a self-improvement mission with the intensity of someone training for a marathon she signed up for by accident. She upgrades her wardrobe, survives a beauty treatment that feels like a war crime, and believes she's evolving into the exact kind of woman a semi-famous musician would fall in love with instantly. Meanwhile, Raymond keeps showing up like an overly friendly side quest NPC. He drags her into social situations, encourages her to eat food not purchased from the same store aisle every week, and introduces her to Sammy's loving family. Humans who are shockingly nice? Eleanor reacts to this warmth like a vampire confronted with a sun lamp. Yet slowly, almost unwillingly, she starts to crack open. She begins talking to co-workers, laughing, sort of, experiencing emotions that aren't filtered through sarcasm and vodka. But every step forward is, in her mind, still part of the grand plan to meet her imaginary fiancé, Johnny. Everything seems to be going according to her extremely fictional plan, which means it's time for reality to throw a brick directly at her romantic fantasy. Stay tuned. Eleanor has spent weeks preparing for her grand romantic destiny with Johnny Lomond. She's upgraded her look, survived waxing sessions that felt like medieval interrogation, and purchased clothing that suggests she might interact with another human voluntarily. In her mind, everything has been perfectly leading up to the big moment. The day she and Johnny meet, lock eyes, and instantly realize the universe has been saving them for each other. Reality, however, has never once agreed to participate in this plan. When Eleanor finally attends one of Johnny's gigs, she expects something poetic. Cue soft lighting, cue slow motion, cue destiny. Instead, what she gets is a sweaty, noisy venue filled with people who have the audacity to stand between her and her future soulmate. She spots Johnny, and instead of radiating romantic destiny, he radiates being a completely normal man. Not heroic, not mystical, just a dude doing his job. The moment she actually sees him interact with fans is the moment her entire romantic fantasy topples over like an unstable bookshelf assembled with missing screws. Johnny is shallow, self-involved, and clearly uninterested in anyone who isn't holding a camera or wearing something sparkly. Eleanor realizes, painfully, that she wasn't in love with him. She was in love with the idea of someone loving her, and that hurts in a way she can't neatly file away under minor inconvenience. This emotional hit begins unraveling Eleanor's carefully crafted facade. Little cracks appear in the places she thought were solid. Her standard coping mechanisms, routine, vodka, sarcasm, aren't enough to patch things up anymore. Luckily for her, and honestly, for humanity, Raymond is still in the picture. Raymond, the cardigan-wearing, sandwich-munching, endlessly patient IT guy who somehow sees value in Eleanor even when her emotional life resembles a burning dumpster. He invites her to lunch. He checks in on her. He includes her in visits to Sammy's warm, chaotic family who show her what real affection looks like without conditions or cruelty. And Eleanor, still shocked, still skeptical, begins to soften. She even starts participating in conversations without treating every word like a linguistic accuracy test. Tiny bit by tiny bit, she starts living. But just when she starts to let a little light in, Mummy's weekly phone calls grow sharper, crueler, and more hostile. Mummy senses Eleanor slipping away from her psychological grip, and she doesn't like it. At all. The tension builds until Eleanor's emotional Jenga tower is wobbling violently. The fantasy has officially died. Reality has entered the building, and Eleanor is one emotional sneeze away from total collapse. Buckle up, things are about to get messy. After her delusional romance crumbles, Eleanor begins drifting into emotional freefall. Everything she's been avoiding, trauma, loneliness, her past, starts scratching at the door, and she has no idea how to stop it. Raymond keeps trying to gently anchor her, introducing her to kindness in doses she can barely tolerate. One of the biggest shocks to her system is meeting Raymond's mother. This woman greets Eleanor with warmth so immediate that Eleanor sits frozen on the couch like she's waiting for the CIA to jump out of a cupboard. There's tea. There are biscuits. There is conversation that does not include insults. Eleanor has never experienced such normal, wholesome energy in her life, and she treats it like an alien abduction. But while these small moments of connection help her crack open, they also expose the rot underneath. Eleanor has been emotionally duct taping herself together since childhood, and now the tape is peeling. With her fantasies shattered and Mummy's manipulative phone calls intensifying, the stress becomes unbearable. She spirals. Her apartment becomes a disaster zone. Showers become optional. Meals disappear entirely unless vodka counts as a balanced diet. She isolates herself, vanishing from normal life. The breakdown starts slow, then crashes over her like a tidal wave. In a devastatingly raw sequence, still true to the book's events, Eleanor hits rock bottom and drinks herself into a dangerous state. The emotional overload, the unprocessed trauma, the pressure of losing her fantasy. It all detonates at once. Thankfully, someone notices. Eleanor ends up in the hospital where medical professionals take over in a way she never allowed anyone to before. It's one of the first moments in her life where help doesn't come with cruelty attached, and Raymond, bless him, is right there, sitting beside her, supporting her, treating her like someone worth saving. This becomes the turning point, not glamorous, not cinematic, just quietly life-changing. Eleanor begins the long, painful process of confronting the truth. Her childhood wasn't just a bit difficult, it was traumatic. Traumatic enough that she built an entire personality around survival instead of living. The emotional armor she wore wasn't strength, it was fear. And now for the first time, she's willing to ask, what actually happened to me? The meltdown has cleared the stage. And now it's time for Eleanor to face the one enemy she's been avoiding her whole life, the truth. Therapy becomes Eleanor's new weekly appointment, one that actually helps her instead of emotionally annihilating her like Mummy used to. But therapy is hard, it's uncomfortable. It's brutally honest. No sparkle, no quick fix epiphanies, just slow, steady excavation of a childhood she sealed away like a radioactive vault. And then comes the biggest reveal of the entire book. Mummy is dead. Has been dead for years. Those weekly phone calls, those psychologically destructive, venom-filled conversations were never real. They were the echo of trauma. Eleanor has been keeping Mummy alive in her mind as a coping mechanism, or maybe as a punishment, or maybe because it was the only familiar voice she had growing up. This revelation hits so hard it practically rearranges her DNA, but it frees her, gives her space to question everything she thought was set in stone. It allows her to imagine who she might be without Mummy's shadow choking every decision. Slowly, Eleanor rebuilds. She starts talking to her coworkers. She forms actual friendships. She eats new food, wears new clothes, experiences new things. She begins to understand that routine is not safety, connection is, and that she is allowed to exist without apologizing for it. Raymond remains the quietly heroic force in her life. Not a savior, not a forced love interest, just someone who shows up consistently, listens, and treats her with a kindness she's never known. Their connection grows, slow, natural, human, the kind of bond built on trust rather than fantasy. Will they end up together romantically? The book doesn't force it, because Eleanor's story isn't about snagging a boyfriend. It's about reclaiming herself, learning to live instead of survive, learning that she deserves more than fine. And in the final pages, she steps into a beginning. Not perfect, not polished, but finally hers. She doesn't end the story completely fine. She ends it honest, healing, becoming. And honestly, that's the best glow up she could ever have. And that's the story of Eleanor Oliphant, living proof that being completely fine can be a full-time performance art piece. If you enjoyed this recap, or if you're just here pretending you read the book, do me a favor and like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Yes, all three in one smooth, life-improving motion. Will it change your life? No, but it will trick the algorithm into thinking I'm important. Alright, go out there and be fine, preferably with fewer delusional crushes and slightly better coping mechanisms.